that you have a chance now, as we talk and we offer you this, to be a monument and be, eternal. Like you said, a monument lasts through the ages. It's always there. It's a testament. Or this can be the end of you. If you don't choose the right way, it's going to be your gravestone. You're going to be gone. You're standing here and you have a choice: be a monument to the future or be a gravestone and die away, die out. So that when I saw that word nitzavim, that's plus everything else you said, it struck me that, wow, we're sort of being, and if you speak the language, that Moses is talking to them, they're hearing the duality there, maybe, of which way are you going to go? Are you going to be, eternal, or are you going to just be a graveyard? And we've obviously chosen to be the eternal, the monument, because we're still here. So that's what I thought. Now, this is one of the most democratic. Did anybody else want to say something?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, yeah, please, Steve.
My commentaries actually focus on the fact more about how they're erect before God, in contrast to when Moses came down from Sinai and was between the people and God. And this is a reinforcement of a direct covenant with God. And it's Moses' last day. He's dying. They don't go to him. It's now you're here and you are with God directly.
Yeah. Yes, I totally agree with you. There's multiple. You're standing before God erectly and at attention, and it's just you and God now. I'm no longer the intermediary. I like that. But I'm just saying, in that one word nitzavim, I saw a subtle subtext of also, what does your stance mean? Are you going forward, or are you?
Well, if it's reinforcing the covenant, I think a monument is like symbolic of something that exists over time, like
Right.
our covenant does.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Okay, so this is, as I said, the most democratic address, in my opinion, to the people in the Torah, because of how specific in what it talks about. So who would like to read the first two verses? Somebody read the first two verses. Come on, you're all good readers.
I'll read it.
Okay. Who said that?
Howard.
Go ahead.
Howard.
Okay, Howard, go ahead.
You are stationed here today, all of you, before the Lord your God, your heads, your tribes, your elders, and your overseers, every man of Israel, your little ones, your wives, and your sojourner who is in the midst of your camps, from the hewer of your wood to the drawer of your water, for you to pass into the covenant of the Lord your God.
Okay, okay. So in my translation, it's similar to what you said. It says, from wood chopper to water drawer. And there's a question of, I saw a commentary, it's from the top to the bottom, but what do you think about wood chopper and water drawer? Do you think has any significance that those particular are the two lowest on the totem pole? Rebecca?
I'm wondering if it's reference to quote unquote the slaves that the slaves that are the slaves is the wrong has a wrong connotation, has a wrong connotation to it. But we did have slaves, even though they were released after 7 years. So I kind of like this in the fact that if indeed we had slaves during the wandering, that they were brought into the covenant. And I think that's just so humane.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah. Perhaps if there were slaves there and they were Jewish slaves, they would be in the covenant too. And a lot of Jewish slaves were, I don't know if they happened to these Jewish slaves, but the idea was when you had no money, you sold yourself into an indenture servitude, basically for 7 years to support yourself or be able to live. Well, I'll just offer you this because I thought it was really interesting. Who in all cultures, all primitive cultures, draws the water?
Women.
Women.
The women. And so I read a commentary that they're talking about the wood choppers are the lowest men and even the lowest women, because we know the women are from earliest times go to the well, draw the water. Rebecca, Rachel, they fed the sheep and the animals and whatever. So water drawers are possibly the women. I just want to see something. Yeah, show of. Yeah. So I just thought that was very interesting that they were saying even the lowest women, you're all in the covenant. You're all in the covenant. So who yes, David and then Steve.
Yes, but it already said you're women. When it describes your tribes, your elders, all the men of Israel, your small children, your women. So I think it's more the type of people, and maybe the hewer of wood in those times was pretty low. I mean, why didn't it say, your sanitation workers? They may not have had them, but everybody might have done their own. But if it was the lowest of the low, there must be some more symbolism why it mentioned the wood. The wood grows up. They use it to make the tabernacle. The water. It's the essence of life. I don't know the answer, but I think it does show the range of people who do it. And then this translation that I have, it doesn't mention soldier. It mentions your proselyte. So it's very
Proselytites. Those are the converts, the people the strangers who became Jews. You're included too. You're
yes, but
included too.
right. But so it's very inclusive, but I'm
Very.
not sure it's from the lowest to the low. Anyways, just a comment.
Thank you. I have thought about that, but Steve and then Mara and Harvey.
Well,
Steve,
here's what Rashi has to say.
yes, tell us.
Rashi said that there were a group of Canaanites who came to Moses and wanted to convert, and he did
Well, they
not let
weren't
them.
Canaanites. Canaanites or Egyptians? Could be Canaanites. They weren't in Canaan.
There was a group of them, not all of them, but a group of Canaanites came to Moses. They wanted to convert. He didn't let them because he felt they were not sincere. So they aren't proselytes, but he allowed them to stay with the Israelites as wood choppers and drawers of water. So he's including these people who were not part of the people of Israel that Moses allowed to remain with the people, and that's why they're included.
Okay, but I have to push back on that because how could there be Canaanites when they were not in Canaan yet? They haven't even entered.
I can only tell you what Rashi
I
said.
know, little Rashi. I don't know.
Well, but they encountered people along the way. I mean, they
Not from
encountered.
Canaan. Canaan is Israel. They're about to
I,
enter Canaan.
well, I understand, but as we know, even from Genesis, people from that area often went to Egypt and came back. It's not unforeseeable.
All
Abraham
right.
went to Egypt.
Okay. I mean, and Rashi,
They ran into all kinds of people in this desolate
they're
land.
about to like wipe out the Canaanites. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
well,
I'm not sure. I
all
know
I
I
know
like
is
Rashi, but
I don't
sometimes
think I can only tell you what Rashi has
I
to say.
understand. Okay.
I don't know more than he does to say whether
Okay,
or
I don't know
not.
if he knew geography that well, but anyway, Mara or Harvey, who wants to say whatever.
Okay.
Hi,
The
Harvey.
book,
Nice to see you.
hi. The book says the wood chopper refers to Abraham and the binding of Isaac, where Abraham chops wood. And it also says uh, the water part refers to Elijah, who used water in his contests with the Baal priests. That's what this book says. Its comments.
Okay, you know what
But
can
Elijah's post Torah.
yeah, he is post Torah, but I have a thought that, they were in the desert still. They hadn't entered the land. There wasn't a lot of wood. I mean, yeah, maybe they brought wood, they built a tabernacle, but I mean, if you think about it, there weren't trees particularly, and there weren't a lot of wells. So maybe they're saying, well, right now we don't really have wood choppers. because there's nothing to chop down, and the water, these magical wells just show up. So maybe this is another thought, saying even the people who maybe they don't do this job now, maybe people that there's no job for them, but in the future there will be. It's anyone in the Jewish people. So it's, maybe, but I love all these these possibilities, but it's interesting they pick wood and water, which are both very scarce in the desert. That's what struck me. There's not a lot of that in the desert. So, okay, so let's go. We're on, and it says we've just finished to enter the covenant of the Lord your God, which the Lord your God is concluding with you this day with its sanctions. The sanctions are not in this parsha, but those are the warnings, of the curses of what will happen to you if you do not do it. And there's a lot of them. And which you've read already, correct? You've read the curses, correct? Last week? So let me ask you a question. This is a covenant, but do you have any choice in the covenant? If all these horrible things are going to happen to you if you don't agree to the covenant, is there a choice here? I'm curious your thinking. I mean, it's kind of like when God gave the 10 Commandments and there's a midrash or whatever that he held this mountain over them and said, take them or else. There's kind of an or else implication here. What do you think about that? Or do you agree with that? Because it's like if you do, or do you think people at that time needed this kind of consequence in order to do the right thing? And do you think people still need a consequence to do the right thing? Or reward is the more enticing result? Howard.
So it says both with those who are standing here this day before Lord God and those who are not here with us here this day. In other words, this is binding not only on the people who were there, who presumably all said, oh yes, we agree, but also everybody else who wasn't even asked.
Okay, yeah, well, not asked, or it's a, okay, all right, so let's just finish that whole thing. Somebody else like to read, let's read from 10 to the end that he may establish. Wait, is it 10, 12? Who wants to read verse 12 and a couple after that? Somebody please volunteer. Come on, Lynn, thank you. To the end that he may establish you this day as his people.
Ordered this day as God's people, and in order to be your God, as promised you and as sworn to your fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I make this covenant with this sanctions, not with you alone, but both with you, those who are standing here, and with us this day before the eternal our God, and with those who are not with us here this day.
Okay, so that's really amazing. It's like the covenant of our ancestors is with us this day. And there's this midrash about the 10 Commandments. Do you know that? It's pretty well known, the midrash about, oh, okay, before I go on. Eric?
Okay, it sounds like I was a former union member, so I think this was a collective bargaining agreement with the Jewish people from generation to generation, and I want you.
I like that.
You like that because I was a former union member at 1199 SCIU, and we had our negotiations with the city each couple of years. So I got familiar with that. So also the water in the wood, the water in the wood chopper. We need the wood to burn the fire, and when we need the water to quench it, and also to is part of the organic compounds of our bodies. And
I like everything you're saying. That's really interesting. That it's collective
because
bargaining.
We needed the wood. We built the houses and we built the fire with wood. I don't know if they had coal or anything like that in the wanderings, but we needed both. And the source of the organic chemistry was the wood and the water. So when you look at a alcohol, it is made up of water and organics. Thank you very much.
You, okay, Mara or Harvey? Yes.
I was just reminded of when we were offered the Ten Commandments at Sinai, we said, we will do and we will hear.
Right.
So the notion of so what we're talking about here in terms of our being part of the covenant today, again, we're required to do. And because we do, then we hear.
Yes, I mean, I think that's a whole philosophy. I always say you can't just be Jewish, you have to do Jewish. Judaism is about doing, and that brings you to, it makes you Jewish, but it also brings you to a deeper understanding and connection. Instead of just thinking about it and deciding, you have to actually do it. But I also think, in terms of what the idea of the collective bargaining, it's like, I'm offering you this unbelievable life of blessings, this beautiful life of prosperity and health and safety and peace and a holy way. And but the deal is you have to not be sinners, not go after, these pagan practices, which are, were considered very self-destructive and indulgent and hedonistic. So here's the deal. And it's not just with you. I make this deal, unlike collective bargaining, where you have to keep renegotiating every few years. This is eternal. This is this. And then I'm going to call on you, Brad. And there's this midrash that every soul, Jewish soul, was at Sinai and received the covenant and received the Ten Commandments, even those from the future, those who had lived, those who are living, and those who will live, all souls were there to have this covenant. I think you've heard this before, probably. And there's actually, maybe I've told you this, there's a dating website, Jewish dating website in LA called Saw You at Sinai. Meaning, we were there, I were there, we were all there. So it's kind of this idea. Okay, Brad.
Well, I'm really confused about this covenant. I mean, when I think of the covenant, I think of the Brit and as the sign of the covenant. And here we're talking about strangers in our midst, who, of course, who have not been in a Brit necessarily, and yet they too are part of the covenant. So what is this covenant? I understand that a covenant is sort of a suzerain vassal relationship, but are there multiple covenants in the Torah? What is this
I think
covenant that we talk about?
The word covenant is English. It could also mean a treaty. In other words, it's a two-sided agreement here. And it's like, came to me, like when people immigrate to the United States, they have to study and then they have to take a test of the Constitution and they have to know, the laws of the country. And it's kind of like you agree to be an American and uphold the Constitution of the United States of America, ideally. And so it's like to be in the covenant or be part of the treaty or be part of this holy community, you have to agree to follow the Torah. So I think there's blessings on one side and following the mitzvahs on the other. So to me, that's the treaty. And the word covenant is a little, I don't know that that's the totally right translation.
But isn't the Brit the sign of the covenant?
Yes, but the Brit also it's a sign of the agreement, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
the agreement. I'll follow you and you'll bless me.
Yeah. But here
I
we have people who are entering into the covenant who have not had a brit.
well, I was reading, yes, I was reading in Eitz Chaim. Do you have Eitz Chaim? The Eitz
Yeah,
Chaim?
I do.
So did you see what they said?
No.
Although they are not Israelites, resident aliens are subject to the civil law and certain religious prohibitions, enjoy particular rights, and are permitted to participate in various religious celebrations. For this reason, they too must take part in the covenant ceremony and listen to the teaching. This probably consisted of the laws of Deuteronomy, beginning with chapter 12. So if you want to live with us, if you're a resident alien, even if you're a resident alien in the United States, you still have to follow the rules of the United States. So they're saying even if you followed us, because they talk about Egyptians who came along, and left with the Israelites, and you want to live among us, you still have to abide by our laws. And our Torah and whatever, and you can't worship idols. Basically, it's a big thing about idols, idolatry. That's a huge thing. There's no idols here. There's no, you have your little area where you can set up your sanctuaries and worship. Have idolatry. If you want to come with us, you have to agree to that. I think that's what it's about. A lot of it, because that's constantly reinforced.
Yes.
David?
Yes, well, the covenant that Brad's referring to with the Brit, that certainly is a covenant. But this is another covenant, and what you've all been talking about, it's similar to the CC&Rs, the covenants, conditions, and restrictions that members of a homeowners association, a condominium association, promise to sign off on, that they and anybody who they sell to later on are bound by what the rules of the HOA are. And secondly, what you mentioned, that this deals with the future as well. It's really a great example of how the Torah, there's not necessarily a superficial reading of something in the Torah, but something which is the plain words of it, like here, and with whoever is not here with us today, that could be interpreted, or the superficial reading of it is maybe those who couldn't make it to this meeting, those who were sick, those who were traveling, those who are not right there. But the deeper meaning that you pointed out is for the future. So who is not, and whoever is not here with us today, that's for the future generation. So just an example I thought of how every sentence probably has a plain meaning, and then if one delves into it, like this Torah study group is great to do, and the rabbis and like you let us think about the deeper meaning.
Yeah, thank you. And Mara posted a very important comment. Women are not circumcised. So that's a very specific covenant that is nothing, and women are included in this one. And so, and this is a much bigger covenant. And there was this implication, I guess, with Abraham and whatever, with men, that they were going, this is like, okay, I'm a follower of Adonai. This is what that sign on your circumcision. Because at that time, there weren't that many mitzvot. There was not that many commandments. When Abraham got circumcised, there were very few, but it's like, okay, I'm following you. I have this agreement. Now we're talking, this is the end of the Torah. We have all of these commandments, and this is a whole different level, and it's for everyone. So, Brad, is your hand still up?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to respond to
Yeah, and then
Mara
Marina.
there.
Okay, yeah.
It is, I'm wondering whether the idea of the covenant evolves in the Torah. Is the covenant of the Brit the same covenant that we're talking about here? I don't think it is.
I don't
think
either.
it's
I
I think
agree.
it's something that changes, or there are multiple types of covenants. I'm not sure. I mean, it's a term that we use all the time, but it seems like we use it so loosely without really defining it. I mean, I thought that the analogy of the CCNRs was interesting. I've always thought it was more of a suzerain vassal
Yeah,
relationship, as in medieval times, you know,
I think
between a lord and his subjects, with mutual obligations that they each had, which is quite different than in a CCR condo relationship. So anyway, it is a word that it seems like an evolving concept to me.
I think you're right, Marina.
I think covenant is a general agreement, a commitment, and the circumcision is just one of the manifestations of this agreement. What I'm saying is partially what Brad already said, but he shows it as a evolving relationship. Everything is an evolving relationship, but there is also bigger and smaller part of a covenant. So covenant is a general commitment between of a relationship between God and the people, and the manifestation of this general relationship may be multiple, the observing of the commandments, the mitzvot, and circumcision is one of the mitzvot.
Also, I agree. I agree. And also, I mean, what comes to mind is when circumcision was introduced, there was literally one Hebrew, one Jew, one follower, Abraham. That was it. And then it was very symbolic in the world. And then he and his sons, and I guess some of his servants did that. And is kind of a more ancient idea of in some way scarring or mutilating or cutting or doing something to show your commitment, sacrificing something or whatever. It's much less lofty and spiritual than saying, I'm going to follow the Torah and do all these, follow the 10 Commandments, follow all these mitzvot, justice, you shall pursue, remember the stranger. It's a much bigger covenant. And there's a much bigger reward because basically, if you recall what God promises Abraham with that covenant, I will make your descendants like the stars in the sky and the sand of the sea. That's basically all he says. You're going to have a lot of descendants. There's not a lot of blessing there yet. Here, there's beautiful blessings, all kinds of blessings. So I agree, it's an evolving, expanding covenant from a man and his family to an entire people, you know what I mean, who went through a lot to get to this place, slavery and then this wandering and everything. And they're kind of like going to appreciate the blessings on a much deeper level now after not being, with such deprived for so long. So this is a really big blessing and powerful covenant. Okay, so, and then there's again this whole obsession, which I think is a big part of the covenant, with foreign gods. So this is verse 15. So who would like to read that? Somebody, come on.
I'll read.
Okay, Rebecca, the 15.
But with him who is not here with us this day, as well as with him who stands here with us this day before the Lord our God.
Okay, keep going. That was 14. Go to 15.
Okay, yeah, the Bible that I'm looking at is not a Hebrew Bible. It is, the numbers are a little off, sorry.
Well, you need to buy a Tanakh, or I'm going to get you one. Go ahead.
You know how we dealt in the land of Egypt and how we came through the midst of the nations through which you passed. And you have seen their detestable things, their idols of wood and stone, of silver and gold, which were among them. Beware lest there be among you a man or woman or family or tribe whose heart turns away this day from the Lord our God to go and serve the gods of those nations, lest there be among you a root bearing poisonous and bitter fruit, one who, when he hears the words of the sworn covenant, blesses himself in his heart, saying, I shall be safe. Though I walk in the stubbornness of my heart, this would lead to the sweeping away of moist and dry alike.
Okay. So why do you think, I mean, why do you think here again is another warning? I think in every single chapter of this parsha, of this book of Devarim, of Deuteronomy, there's a warning about the idols, the other gods or whatever. Why do you think Moses feels it's so important to keep pounding this and reiterating this all the time? Don't you think they got it by now?
Well, according to Diane, no, they only kept saying it because people kept engaging in the practice.
Yeah, yes, I agree. Anybody else want to have a thought about that?
It seems that if you repeat something that isn't true again and again and again, people begin to believe it.
I think it must have been very enticing. Must have been very seductive. It must have been something really interesting then, and like, oh, that's really interesting, you know, and the gold and the silver and the all that stuff. And that they keep saying, if you go there, and even if you think, oh, no one will know, or I can do it, or I'm safe, it's going to bring ruin on you. And I love this. The ruin of moist and dry alike. So I guess, I mean, I was looking for, what do you think that means, moist and dry alike?
It's everything.
Everything, you know, and I guess in the desert, that's was big things that you noticed pretty much, you know, when things were, there was moisture and when it was really dry. So it doesn't matter from one end to the other. If you do this, you're gonna, you think in your heart, oh, I may be immune. I don't have to pay attention. I can do it secretly. And, you know, today we, many of us, I can say myself included, do participate in some idolatry. They would consider reading your horoscope, going to a psychic, you know, I mean, you know, even throwing the I Ching or whatever would be sort of in that, oh, it's magical or whatever. Having your hand read, going to a gypsy, your palm and all that. So it is very interesting. It's still enticing to us, even though it's very, you know, benign. Brad, and then Risa.
Well, you know, again, this idea of the evolution of covenant, you know, we talked about the initial Abraham story, but I remember reading somewhat recently about the circumcision of the heart.
That's right.
And here we have again the heart, this
Exactly.
emphasis on the heart and turning away from the circumcised heart, this heart that's in a covenant.
No, don't turn. It says the circumcised heart was open your heart, have empathy. The uncircumcised heart is the one with no empathy. It's the one, open your heart, take off the barrier or the, you know, the tough callus and open it up to feel for other people. And here, it's a willful heart. So it's a different kind of heart. It's a heart that's saying, I'm not letting in all the values of Torah. I'm putting in my own opinions and my own values. But you're right. The heart is a very important image in Judaism. Very important. Risa.
If they say it, someone's doing it.
Yes.
So that's why it's being said. And the other thing is when you talk about wet in the desert, it's pouring rain. It's not the little rain we get in California very often. It's when it rains in the desert, it floods.
Wow, that's interesting. So it's one extreme to the other.
Goes extreme. And when you talk about dry in the desert, you think the desert is bone dry. It isn't, except when it is. And when the desert becomes bone dry and there's no dew and there's no fluid, if you will, inside even the cactus, then you have death in the desert. Death
And a windstorm maybe. So it's
a sandstorm.
sandstorm, I mean, yeah.
That too. But you get that in Jerusalem because Jerusalem is on the cusp of the desert. So when it rains, it pours. And if you're in the desert and you get a warning, you're going to get a flood, you run. You run.
So that's a really good metaphor or image of saying the gamut from one extreme to the other. And what Risa said, I've said this many times, if it says don't do it, people are doing it. They don't say don't cut your hand off. Well, I mean, because we don't do that. Or maybe some people do, but don't, feel ridiculous, but don't do it. And actually, I'll tell you this is just off the cuff, but in England, in Victorian England, homosexuality was against the law. And lesbianism was not. And they asked Queen Victoria, why is there no law? There's a law against homosexuality and there's no law against lesbianism. And she said, well, there's no such thing. There's no such thing. So we don't need to make a law. That was her answer. So, they don't make a law against something if they don't think it exists, is my point. But I always thought that was very interesting. Okay, let's continue. And it says here, just to finish this thought, the Lord will never forgive him. Rather will the Lord's anger and passion rage against that man till every sanction recorded in this book comes true. And his name is blotted out. They say his name is, and it says, Umacha erases his name from under heaven. And we still say that's kind of an expression, Yimach Shemo, may his name be erased, that we say against like Hitler or any kind of horrible oppressor of the Jews. They'll say his name and they'll say Yimach Shemo, may his name be blotted out. So it's a similar curse. Okay. And then he just goes on. I don't, what time is it? Oh my God. I want to go a little, and then he goes into, and people will see that this is your punishment. However, what's interesting, this Parsha is right before Rosh Hashanah. And it's intentionally placed here. It's always pretty close to Rosh Hashanah. And so this, further on it, this section we don't need to read is basically saying they're going to be punished, and it's because they didn't follow and they sinned and they were like Sodom and Gomorrah and that they worshiped other guys. But where is it? And there's God will be furious. However, let's go to chapter 30 of Deuteronomy. And we'll find an idea that is totally applicable to Rosh Hashanah, and that's probably why this is placed where it is. So who would like to read chapter 30 of Deuteronomy, the very beginning? Somebody.
I'll read.
Who said that?
Risa.
Okay.
When all these things befall you, the blessing and the curse that I have set before you, and you take them to heart amidst the various nations to which your God Adonai has banished you, and you return to your God Adonai, and you and your children heed God's command with all your heart and soul, just as I enjoin upon you this day. Then your God Adonai will restore your fortunes and take you back in love. God will bring you together again from all the peoples where your God Adonai has scattered you.
Okay. Go ahead. Finish. Go ahead.
Your outcasts are at the ends of the world. From there, your God Adonai will gather you. From there, God will fetch you. And your God Adonai will bring you to the land that your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it. And God will make you more prosperous and more numerous than your ancestors.
So basically, and the word is you return, and it's let me see, I'm looking the Hebrew, and veshav from the word shuv or teshuva. So this is basically talking about no matter how bad you have been, just like on the high holidays, if you return, if you make teshuvah, God will take you back. God will restore the blessings, bring you back into the land, which is one of their greatest, acquisitions and treasures in this context. But basically, here we're seeing this idea that as harsh as the consequences are, if you sincerely return, I'll bring you back, I'll love you, and I will restore you. So did somebody, I thought I saw a hand up. Rebecca, do you have a hand up? No, it's my computer. Okay. So, and then, okay, Brad, why don't you read this? Because it's about the heart. It's verse 6 of Deuteronomy 30.
Okay. Then the Lord your God will open up your heart and the hearts of your offspring to love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul in order that you may live.
Okay, so that's really interesting. It says it again, you may live. What do you think that means? Does it just mean you're not going to die, or does it mean something else to say God will open your heart and the hearts of your offspring to love the Lord your God with all your heart? Do you think it means something deeper?
Well, I'm looking at the note here in Eitayim, and it says, will open up your heart, literally will circumcise your heart. We're
I
back
see
to
that
this
too.
idea of circumcision of the heart.
Here, yes, where Moses, it's literally will circumcise your heart. In contrast, when Moses exhorts Israel to circumcise its own heart, here it says that God himself will remove the psychological impediment to wholehearted devotion. So what does that mean? Yeah, it says God will open your heart. So let's just unpack that a bit. You are sinning, you're worshiping idols, you're stealing, you're cheating, you're committing adultery, you're doing terrible things. You recognize this, you repent, you make teshuvah, you restore, you return, you repair. And then it says that God will open your heart. So, and the hearts of your children. So what does that mean? Why is God opening your heart? Steve?
Well, first of all, my translation includes the parenthetical at the end of so that you may live. It says forever. So I think that.
So what does that mean to you?
I think that what this is saying is if God will open your heart, and if you accept that and you do as God wants you to do, living forever, I think, means two things. One, your memory will carry on. Your in the traditional sense, your soul will be resurrected when the Messiah comes. And three, that your family will be blessed going forward.
Okay. What about as a people? Look at the Jewish people. I mean, despite all odds, how is it that this tiny little cult, tribe, religion, people, nation has survived for 3,000 years, just and all these other enormous civilizations have disappeared, and we are still living. It's amazing. It's kind of a phenomenon that's hard to explain. So I think that's very interesting to say live forever. Any other thoughts about what it will mean that you will live? You know how you say when things are really wonderful, oh, this is living. Well, this is the life. I think it may mean you will live a rich, beautiful, meaningful life. You will live a holy life it means you will live an elevated life as opposed to the life that you were living before, which was maybe a living existence or a negative existence. Marina, did you have your hand up? Yeah.
Yes, I raised it, but you basically mentioned what I wanted to say. I think you may live means you will live a good life, you will live a full life, a meaningful life, something maybe spiritual life. We can add adjectives to the life that's meant here.
Okay, so God is saying he's going to love you and he's going to, bless you and whatever if you take the Torah into your heart. It's, the last, at the very end of this paragraph, it says, if you heed God's commandments and the laws recorded in this book of the Torah, and you'll return to God with all your heart and your soul. But then there's another little interesting idea. So verse 11, who would like to read? Verse 11. Verse 11. Come on, somebody. I hate calling on people. Diane, do you want to read? Sure. Okay, unmute
Okay.
yourself.
I
Verse
just found
11.
where we were, so I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
Surely this instruction which I enjoin upon you this day is not too baffling for you, nor is it beyond reach. It is not in the heavens that you should say, who among us can go up to the heavens and get it for us and impart it to us that we may observe it? Neither is it beyond the sea that you should say, who among us can cross to the other side of the sea and get it for us and impart it to us that we may observe it? No, the thing is very close to you, in your mouth and in your heart to observe it.
Okay, so what is Moses saying? And don't forget, he's dying. So what is he saying? Steve?
I think he's saying that everybody can understand this covenant and abide by it. It's not a
It's
bunch
the
of
Torah. He's talking about the Torah.
right. It's not some obscure esoteric text that is beyond the comprehension of the normal person. But obviously the people who wrote the Talmud think otherwise.
The Talmud. Oh, because they
Yeah.
keep reinterpreting it. Well,
They
there's
keep making they make it very complicated.
well, yes, yes. But what he's saying, I also think, any other thoughts about this? Anybody else? David, are you having a
Yeah,
thought?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Nor is it elitist, only
It's
for the well-educated, for the tribal elders, etc.
Yes, and also though it says, "Who among us can go of it and then impart it to us?" It's like, well, once you die, who's going to explain it to us? Who's going to teach us? When you're gone, we'll have no one, and it's really hard, and it's really, it started at Sinai, and you went up, and you came down, and we need you, and once you're gone, what's going to happen? And he's saying, no, no. This is all of yours. It's not just mine to give to you. It's yours to have and teach. And we know the Via Hafta is before this. You have to know it and teach it to your children. So we're all teachers in a way, and we're all observers. And it's not so hard to live this life. And it's not so impossible. It's in your heart and it's in your mouth, meaning you have this potential. You can do it. It's in you as much as it's in me. Brad.
Well, if it's so easy, why is it if you asked Jews, even Jews in this group, what are 10 things that we believe? I don't know if you could get an answer. I know I couldn't answer it.
When you say we, do you mean
Because we
Jews?
we don't have a catechism the way Christians do. So what is it that
That's
if
not
it's so
true.
if it's so easy,
Right.
how come if you ask most Jews what are 10 things that we believe as Jews, by rule number 4, you'll get into lox and bagels and and matzah and that kind of stuff, rather than,
Okay. I have two answers. First of all, Maimonides, the Rambam, did write a catechism. There's the 12 principles that he wrote. And
okay.
next time we meet, because it's going to be, we'll take like a break. Well, we'll look at the Parsha, but I'm happy to show you the 10 principles, or
That would be
12
great.
principles.
I'd love that.
Okay, this is what Jews believe, and they're there. When I teach adult B'nai Mitzvah, this is my first class. What do Jews believe? And people don't have a clue. We're good. We should be a good person. Yeah, but that's Christianity. Well, and then we do it. And then there's another list, an actual declaration list of the Reform movement. That's also says, because some of the Maimonides things are, medieval, like we believe in the resurrection of the dead, but the Reform movement has translated it that a key principle of Judaism is having hope, believing in hope, even in the darkest of times. So I'm happy to bring you this list. I'll email it to you, or I'll share it on the screen, and we can go through the Maimonides version and then the updated version that applies to more modern Jews. Okay. And so as we're closing, I'm going to call David and then Mara. Go ahead.
I remember that whatever the Jewish branch of numerology is and all that, there's a name to it. But anyways, I remember hearing or reading the 613 mitzvot. If you add up the 6, 1, and 3, that comes up to 10, and that's one. It boils down to one. So whatever the one principle is, it can all be boiled down to one mitzvah, one commandment, which I don't remember it was, like I don't remember the Jewish numerology system.
Okay. Oh my God. There's also a list in this our Siddur of what the rabbi said. These are the 3 principles. These are the 2 principles. These are the 1 principle. So there's a lot of places where you can see it's written down what Jews believe. And I am going, this group of all others should know them. And I'm going to share them with you. Mara.
I think the other list of what Jews should believe is provided to us when Moses asks to see God's face and we learn the attributes of God.
Right.
Slow to anger and
right. That's yes. But that's like a role model, I would say, for a kind of a person, that's we try to be in the image of God. But there's actual beliefs, credos in Judaism. And also there's it's written in the Talmud, what I call the 10 super mitzvahs. There are 10 mitzvahs that are higher than all the other mitzvahs. So if you just believe in these, or these, you're on the good road, because they say these are the ones that you get some of the reward in this world, but the majority of the reward in the next world. Meaning when you do these mitzvahs, you're like affecting the realm here and the upper realm. If you're spiritual or Kabbalistic, this will get you into heaven, because there's such amazing mitzvahs. And one of them, well, I'll tell you all of them, and they list them, and then they say, but the study of Torah equals them all. Maybe you heard that expression, because that will lead you to these other ones. But the rabbis list the ones, and they're all about how we treat each other. And they're very interesting. So that's what we believe. And anyway, it's 10 o'clock and we have to do the Kaddish. So as usual, it's always a pleasure to study with you. And let me just get the Kaddish list, because I didn't print it. So it's on my
Thank you so much, Rabbi.
Don't we also have the 3 pillars?
3 pillars?
Yeah.
What, Torah, Avodah, Gemilut, Hasadim?
Right.
Yes, that's in the Pirkei Avot. Absolutely. We have a lot of places where if we actually sat down and thought about it, it's very specific what we believe. And they're different than many of the other religions. Okay, I'm sorry. I just have to get to the Kaddish list from Samantha, who sent it to me. I apologize, because I got too involved with talking. Here they are, announcements and Kaddish. Announcements, Kaddish. Okay. All right. So we begin with remembering those who have passed away during Shloshim the past month. Merrick Bob, Burton Allen Ehrlich, William Wolf Fisher, Susan Frankel, Rachel Fries Laban, Sophia Kasper, Anita Mason, Louis Stephen Robbins, Morris David Rutchick, Nancy Center, Stanley Silver, Nancy Sogg. We also remember those whose yortsites occurred during this past week, the anniversaries of their deaths. Robert Adlin, Solomon Agai, James Bacon, Guy Barron, Erwin Bernstein, Francis Barris, Lillian Blum, Henrietta Bloomer, Ethel Brauda, Stephen St. Clair Butterworth, Betty Cohen, Michael Cohen, Barnett Cooperman, Suzanne Koritz, Carol Jean Davis, Susan DeMille, Frida Deutsch, Gertrude Diamond, Sue Dorskind, Richard Epstein, Anna Fine, Nathan Friedman, Samuel Galper, Henry Gavin, Don Geller, Beatrice Jerry, Rebecca Gilman, Jenny Gross, Sylvia Gross, Betty Haddon, Paul Heller, Marcia Lois Hervey, Gail Hughes, Razel Hyman, John Jaffe, Sylvia Kaplan, Lillian Katz, Victor Kessler, Molly Kirshner, Lisa Kraft, Evelyn Kramer, Leo Kramer, Brian Kulik, Harriet Levi, Alfred Levin, Sybil Adlin Lewenstein, June Love, Linda Lubitz, Lillian Lynn, Louis Malin, Lawrence Frank Mandelberg, Lillian Marion, Edward Matlin, Fanny Melamed, Earl Metzner, Harry Miller, Nathan Milner, David Nichta, Pearl Orloff, Bernard Palanker, Albert Peskin, Carol Peters, Parviz Pinazar, Cassie Plattis, Etta Robin, Sidney Robinson, Joseph Roseman, Helen Roth, Joshua John Roth, Richard Harry Roth, Maurice Sachs, Dorothy Sachs, Lena Silver, Leon Silver, Morley Sklar, Helen Snyder, Irene Stein, Myron Sturman, Judy Talman, Eileen Taub, Bruce Teichholz, Eva Teichholz, Miriam Ullman, Harold Victor, Anatoly Vulikman, Lorraine Weintraub, Libby Werbner, Michael Werner, Sandy Wesley, Payson Wolf, Rosalie Udovich, Sion Yonessian. Are there any other names to add? We also remember those who gave their lives defending the United States of America, the state of Israel, those who've died in the terrible wars in Gaza, in Ukraine, and Israel, and around the world, and those who have no one to say Kaddish for them. May their memories be a blessing, and we take them as their own as we read the Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'Yit Kadash Rabba. Bialma divrach yirute yamlich malchute b'chaye chon uv'yome chon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael b'hagala uv'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach leolam ulmei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitrumam v'yitnaseh V'yitadar, v'yitalev, v'yitalal, shmei dekudesha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamachta, damiran v'yalma v'yamru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom v'yimramah. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Shabbat shalom, Shana Tova. I'll see you in